All right, and good evening to all of you out there in the Carolinas and beyond. I'm Jared Smith with the Carolina Weather Group alongside Scotty Powell up in Morganton, North Carolina. Um, you can imagine why we're here. We are on the eve now of a potentially significant, really winter storm, but really for a lot of a good bit of the population, an ice storm that we're going to want to be keeping a very close eye on over the next 24 hours. So again, welcome to the show. We're going to go over the next hour. We're going to go over what we know. We're going to go over, we're going to get to your questions. We're going to try and answer as many of those questions as we can, and try to make sense of what's happening here. So what we're going to do, first thing I'm going to do here is we are going to just start off the top with the watches and warnings. We have advisories now in effect for a good bit of the Carolinas here. So I'm just going to go ahead and take me full here for a minute, Scotty, and let's go over it. So we've got plenty of we've got plenty of issues now with we got winter storm warnings now up into much of the Carolinas, ice storm warning in South Carolina from the central Savannah River region up towards just south of Charlotte. Winter weather advisories stretch pretty close to the coastal counties, as far east as Florence and very near Wilmington, but for the potential for a little bit of ice there, but certainly not to the impact that we are expecting in some of the more populated areas. So let's take a look at our winter storm severity index here, and so this is what we've got going on. Again, we have limited impacts for a good bit of South Carolina, but when we start getting into the minor and moderate impacts for freezing rain is the primary concern, and we get major impacts potentially around Charlotte and in the North Carolina mountains, where snow still looks to be the operative precipitation type, perhaps mixing in with some sleet, and we'll get to that, get to those predictions here very shortly. So again, your winter storm severity index, we're going to have we're definitely going to have some troubles from Greenville to Charlotte. Looks like we're going to have some problems up in Greensboro, and then definitely into the North Carolina mountains and parts of the upstate. So let's talk snow accumulations real quick. We're going to start with North Carolina tonight. And again, we've been seeing these snowfall predictions kind of come down a little bit over the day, and that has owed to the potential for maybe a little bit more sleet mixing in and potentially even a little bit more ice. Whereas last night we saw some of these higher totals a little further to the east. Now we're starting to see them really confined to the foothills and the mountains. So, for example, around Boone, you could still see 8 to 12 inches. go 10 miles, 20, go 40 miles south, and it may just be 1 to 2 inches. 4 to 6 inches up towards Cherokee. 6 to 8 inches, maybe still around Asheville. So again, the concern right now is that there may be a little bit more of a mix than we have been seeing before. Again, this still could change. So we're kind of getting towards the final call here, but we'll be now casting this throughout the day tomorrow. Now, ice is going to be a big problem. And again, I'm going to urge everybody that's in, anywhere from Greensboro to Charlotte, with all of these, with the potential here for over a quarter inch of accretion of ice, and that is significant, especially when the winds start to come up in the wake of the cold front in the afternoon. And so we're going to need folks to be really ready for the potential for significant disruptions, including the possibility of power outages, potentially long duration power outages. Power crews have been staging over the last day or so in the Carolinas and up the East Coast, because this one is not. It's starting here, but it's going to go right up the East Coast with a lot of ice and a lot of snow over the next couple days. So again, we're going to be keeping an eye on this very closely, but for those of you, especially in central North Carolina, really urge you to get your preparations done. We're running out of time here, and this ice is going to potentially, snow and ice could potentially begin as early as tomorrow morning, that is. So let's talk South Carolina real quick, and again, the snowfall is becoming less of the story in South Carolina. Maybe around an inch or so around Greenville and Spartanburg, maybe up to 2 inches there. You can really see that the higher accumulations are now being confined very much towards the Blue Ridge. So the snowfall is not going to be the story in South Carolina. The story in South Carolina is going to be ice. A quarter-inch accretion from Anderson to Spartanburg to Rock Hill to Lancaster, again into the Charlotte metro area. And a not insignificant amount of ice could accrete in Columbia, in Camden, Newberry, Greenwood. We'll have to see a couple things that we'll have to see. Again, how strong is the high pressure wedge, which is still a very live question right now, and it may be stronger than was thought when some of these forecasts were built earlier today. We'll see. How aggressive will the warm nose be? That could the models be overdoing the warm nose? Could they be underdoing the warm nose? Probably not. We'll have to see. This is the best possible information that the Weather Service and meteorologists can give without, with the data that we have. So again, we're going to be watching the radar very closely tomorrow to see where mixing kicks in, and that could have significant impacts on what falls where and how much you see. Now, the other part of this is that there is increasingly a severe weather threat. We have been kind of hinting at this, seeing how this might evolve, and it certainly looks like now, based on current projections, that there will be a low-end severe thunderstorm risk from Wilmington to Morehead City to Cape Lookout to Cape Hatteras to Kitty Hawk tomorrow afternoon, primarily as the low-pressure system moves northeast and drags a squall line through, which could produce some damaging winds and maybe even a tornado or two. So we're going to keep an eye on that. In eastern North Carolina. It looks like South Carolina probably not going to see that enough inland movement with that warm front to get enough instability ashore to cause problems. We could hear some thunder in South Carolina. If a deformation band comes together, there certainly could be the risk for some thunder snow. But at this point, I think the main concern for thunder is going to stay generally in that warm sector east of the front as the low pressure system moves northeast. So Scotty, I'm going to bring you back in here now, and we're going to, and again, I think the word of the day has been, what are the models doing, and are they running cooler? And it certainly seems like there's been a little bit of a cooling trend today in the guidance suite.
I should unmute myself first. I want to go back and be a little bit funny there. As we were counting down the video and the music was playing, I just found myself zoned out for a little bit, and it was actually peaceful. And I was like, man, this is good. I'm zoning out, and I don't have to worry about snow. And then we popped back up. So now we got to talk about snow. Good point there, Jared. I know those graphics that we just showed from the National Weather Service. Not sure how long ago they were made, but I think there may be a little bump up in that if they're updated anymore tonight, because we have seen a lot of the model runs come in today, much colder, or not much colder, but cooler. It seems like every run. And looking at some of the graphic output from the models and just kind of guidance with this, it still shows that snow threat and that ice threat. It's just kind of dependent, like you said, on where the warm nose, how far it gets in to the Piedmont. We're pretty sure it's going to be into the Midlands of South Carolina, and we're pretty sure central eastern North Carolina. It's kind of up in the air right now how far west that warm nose will advance. So that will go to totally nowcasting. I don't think there's much more we can do to the forecast than what's already out there. The event is starting to unfold, and I was able to kind of look at a mosaic radar just a little while ago. And Jared, this thing is loaded with moisture back over the south. And, all of that is headed our way. I can tell you, if you live in Western North Carolina, you probably have noticed a bone chill. It's kind of bone chilling out there. It's very cold. The breeze is starting to pick up, and that's just the cold air damming that is really starting to build in from that high pressure over the northeast. And if you want snow, if you want wintry precipitation, you have to have that cold air here first. And we definitely have it tonight. Dew points are low and getting lower. And, it is something that is really going to continue overnight. So, we're going to watch this very closely, and it's really just going to come down to nowcasting on who sees what type of precipitation. And one other thing, Jared, I'd like for us to talk about. I know we're having some issues on our stream here, so if you need to do that, I can talk.
Yeah, we should be good. For those
Okay.
of you who are watching on the Carolina Weather Net stream, I apologize. We're having what we're kind of doing right now is we're actually running the net at an alternate site because of the potential for significant power outages up in North Carolina. So we've been working out the kinks with that throughout the day. That was a kink. We should be in good shape now. So Scotty, please continue.
Yeah, we're good. So, watching Jared, I want your opinion a little bit on this. We were talking before we went on air. The HRR run is very favorable if you want wintry precipitation that's not ice in portions of the Carolinas. It's still got the ice element to it, but it's also kind of keeping it a little bit colder, and you might see more snow, sleet. I just know how good it did a few weeks ago with the mountain system that we covered here on the Carolina Weather Group. It was a very the HRR run really did well, and so just keeping my eye on that and seeing how that progresses. But one other thing that I'd love to mention, which I'm not sure that we've talked a lot about, is the wind factor and how we could really see some high winds from the system as the storm really kicks off the coast. We could definitely see some gusty winds, and you put 20, 30, 40 mile per hour wind gust on top of ice covered trees. It's never a good thing when that happens. And so the wind is going to be another big story tomorrow. I know we're thinking like snow, ice, and all that, and the wind threat hasn't really has really been kind of playing second fiddle, but that's really going to come into effect tomorrow, especially in the afternoon hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're already starting to see the winds kick up around here, Scotty. It's been certainly a little bit windier this evening, just down here in Charleston, as the wedges continue to build in. We're sitting
here too.
Yeah, as we speak, I'm sitting here about 46, so winds out of the northeast at 12. It's been gusting a little bit at times, nothing too crazy, but there's concerns with the wind, especially further towards the coast as well, where we have gale warnings in effect. 40 mile an hour gusts could be very common in the Charleston metro area. We are not expecting a repeat of the January 3rd 2022 windstorm. I think that is an important thing to keep in mind there. We're not expecting a repeat of that, but what we certainly are concerned about is, again, gusty winds on the coast, saturated soils. Our soil moisture is, we're a bit dry, running a bit dry, but again, it won't take much to bring a few trees down. We certainly saw a couple weeks ago where we had significant tree damage in the low country. And then, to your point, Scotty, as you get further north, you get 20, 30 mile an hour wind gust. And that's enough. If you got a quarter inch ice on there, you got branches coming down or more. You got power outages and a lot of interesting, unfortunate situations potentially for your neck of the woods. So, so yeah,
we're talking about the CAD. I've got up here on my second screen. I'm going to share this screen and kind of talk to you about what we got going on here. So this is from the North Carolina State Climate Office, and this is dew points. And so when we talk about what is the CAD, what does it mean? Well, the CAD is cold air damming, and really that cold air is dry air. It's really dense air. And look at these dew points up here. This is the Raleigh area, Raleigh, Durham, Greensboro. You're looking at 20s to teens. Look at here in Raleigh, a 12-degree dew point, and that's just showing you how dry this air is. And so when the precipitation starts to fall, you can see through evaporative cooling that these temperatures are really going to drop as well. So this is the cold air damming. This is the dry air that is really pushing into the Carolinas now. You can see it's kind of what we call a backdoor front. So these dew points will be moving actually from northeast to southwest with that high pressure. So you can already see the dew points in High Point, Greensboro, 20 degrees. And then you go to Charlotte, it's like 26, 27. I'm sure in the next few hours, we'll see these dew points in the Charlotte area close to 20 like they are just north of the city. So that is something else to watch. And one other thing, we'll put up the temperatures right quick and kind of let you see what the temperature is looking like out there. And you can really see now up in the Raleigh area and north of Raleigh, those temperatures are already below freezing. and the freezing mark now making it into Raleigh, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and eventually that'll happen here in the Charlotte area. And then if you look over here in the southwest part of the state, where some areas already seen some snow flurries earlier today, temperatures already below freezing as well. 34 in Asheville, 23 there in Black Mountain, 21 up in, or 28 up in the Boone area. And one other thing I want to talk about, and then we can go to some questions and things like that, but is the soil temperatures. And you can really see when this snow starts to fall, although the ground is not freezing, it's pretty cold. So when that snow starts to fall, it'll be pretty heavy, and it will not have any problem at all sticking to the surface. So soil temperatures in the 40s and 30s. So that's not going to be a problem either, Jared.
Yeah, and if snow rates are what they could be, consider, that won't matter. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Snow rates will beat ground temperatures anytime and anyway. So yeah, I think what we want to do is get into some questions, and maybe and at some point, we're gonna have a couple other Carolina Weather Group folks joining us. James Bryart in Charlotte. He'll be anchoring coverage starting at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Evan Fisher is at UNC Asheville, and they'll be releasing some weather balloons throughout the duration of the event, so we can understand a little bit better about the shape of that warm nose and understand where the where we could see melting, where we could see some potential mixing and changeover. So so with all that being said, I think it's question time, guys. We'll bring James in as he's just joined the broadcast here. So yeah, y'all have got us until 10 o'clock. So let's go ahead and get rolling here. So I guess the first thing is Dip's message here. He won't be surprised if he ends up getting no snow in Spartanburg. I like people who set their expectations low for snow. I think that's a smart way to do it. We'll see.
I'll give you a little false hope, though. The latest HRR has 4 inches in Clemson.
That's interesting.
And so I'm telling you, this HRR it's really cooler and cooler and cooler as we go throughout the day. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I like those expectations low, because if you wake up and you see an inch or two, then you're happy.
Yeah, I think what's interesting here is that as we're looking at the model run here, it looks like there is the potential for maybe start of snow, mix up for a bit, and then get a nice little dusting at the end, if you take this model literally. So we'll see. I think it's going to be certainly very interesting.
It's my only hope in Charlotte is that last licks.
Yeah, exactly. That is the truth. Let's talk about Morganton. What is the expected ice accumulation in Morganton, Scotty?
That's a great question. So I've been teetering on that back and forth today. Looking at the HRR, we may only get a glaze. If you look at some of the other models, it could be 1/10 or 2/10 of an inch. So I think it's possible that the warm nose does get here and we do turn over to a brief period of freezing rain. So I wouldn't be surprised if you found 1/10 of an inch of ice or somewhere in the Morganton, Hickory, Lenore, Marion type kind of area right there. That's not really enough to do damage to trees like it will be down in James's area in Charlotte. But it is enough of a glaze with the wind on top that it could bring down some trees and stuff like that with power lines. But I don't think it'll be widespread ice accrual like it will be to our east and our friends in the Charlotte and the Midlands and up towards the Greensboro and Raleigh area.
Yeah, absolutely. How about Monroe? Latest thinking on ice for the Monroe area?
Way more ice than snow. We're talking 0 to 1 inch of snow for Monroe. It's either going to come at the very beginning or the very end, and everything in the middle is going to be some sort of wintry mix, i.e. ice.
Yeah, we're gonna yeah. I don't appreciate ice storms. We had a really nasty one down here in Charleston in 2014, and I hope we don't repeat that for a long time. And it's something I just have a bad feeling that y'all are going to be saying the same thing about January 16th, 2022. Let's go down. Let's ask. This is a good question here. What temperatures allow snow melt to work? So.
I've heard that. I don't know this for sure. I'm not a DOT
And this is
person.
and this is around salt. So yeah.
Yeah, I've heard like anything below 24, 25 degrees, it's not really doing much for you. So that's what I've heard. I don't know that to be the gospel though.
Yeah.
The other
Interesting.
consideration, as I understand it too, is if we get too much liquid rain, it will wash it away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a common issue down here. I mean, I'll remember in 2018 in the advance of our winter storm in Charleston, we had everyone was like pre-treat the roads, yeah, everything good, and then a layer of freezing rain. So yeah, no. Merck asks on YouTube, if the cool trend continues, would it mean more sleet than ice in the Greensboro area?
I think it's possible. I've had a few questions about that. I tweeted out earlier, you could really feel the CAD really building in. And so basically with a CAD, you have cold air at the surface and just above the surface. So if you continue to get that cold air, those cold temperatures in there, you really make that column of air cold. So it doesn't alleviate or take away the ice threat, but I think if you can keep it cold enough long enough, you may not have as many hours to deal with freezing rain. Maybe you can hang on to that snow or sleet an hour or two extra instead of having to deal with an extra hour or two of freezing rain. So,
and I think it's also going to depend too on just how potent that warm nose is aloft.
Yeah.
How resident that can get. You know, if you have if the warm nose is tiny, you can very well could oversleet it. So I mean that certainly is, you know, we'll be looking very closely at the 850 temps tomorrow to see exactly what.
I was gonna say, do you guys mind if I put up the HRR and the 850 temperatures and kind of show you that dividing line right quick, since we're kind of talking about that?
Let's do it. That's all right. Good call. Let's do it.
Let me share the screen here, and this is the HRR. We're going to go back a little bit in time here because I've been looking at this. So this is looking at 2 a.m. right now. You can kind of see this little time clock up here, so you can follow that. Anything that you see 0 and below, that is below freezing. About 850 is what, Jared? About 3,000 feet, roughish.
3, 4, 5. I mean, yeah. I'll have to check the height. Honestly, what they're thinking, what the model's thinking.
It's roughly a couple 3, 4,000. 5,000 feet above your head is the temperature. So anything that you see 0 below, that is freezing. That's an entirely column of air below freezing. That's a good profile for snow. You can watch this warm nose as I put this in motion down here. This is going to be 6 a.m. So now Charlotte, Rock Hill, you're a degree, you're flirting with freezing. You're a degree above 32 in the upstate of South Carolina. And then it kind of wavers back and forth. So this is going to be 10 a.m. You can kind of see now this warm nose up in the Raleigh, up into the Greensboro, Winston-Salem area, down to Charlotte. Look at Monroe. Look at Lancaster County, 3 to 4 degrees above that freezing level. So we definitely know that's a freezing rain sounding right there, because surface temperatures are going to be below freezing. But if you look back here over the mountains, Asheville, 4 degrees below the freezing level. Morganton, Hickory, 1 to 2. Boone, Jefferson, 5 degrees below the freezing level. So that, to me, tells me it's still a snow. Maybe Hickory could be sleeting at this time. Rutherford County maybe sleeting at that time, is kind of flirting with that 0 degree line. So let's go out a little bit further, and guys, stop me if you see something I don't.
And I will say, for those of you, again, this is an approximation. This doesn't take into account the depth of the warm nose. The depth is a big indicator as to whether you're going to get sleet or freezing rain. So something to keep in mind there.
Yeah. This is just model simulation. This is not the gospel. This is kind of just what it's showing us right now. So we are at lunchtime. Now you can see the Charlotte area down towards Rock Hill, York County, Lancaster County. That's 5-6 degrees above freezing. So you can kind of see the areas that could see this freezing rain mess, and then the areas that are trying to hang on to the snow sleet. So it's a fine line. Look at that, guys. A fine line there, deep contour between who gets sleet and freezing rain and who could stay cold enough for snow. And that continues throughout the rest of the afternoon. Eventually, the cold air is going to win out as we get that northwest flow in, as the low pressure really starts to depart. And then everything, that last batch that James was talking about, where you may get a little bit of snow at the end, you can definitely see that whole column of air is below freezing, and that would be a good chance to see some snow. So that's just kind of a rough estimate. Like Jared said, that's not the gospel. There's more in depth, but that's kind of a visual I wanted you all to see, to kind of see this is how fine the line is between who gets what over the next 24 hours.
Yeah, and real quick, I think James has got the winter precipitation types graphic up, and so to go through this a little bit, just to give you all kind of an idea of how does this work. What the heck is a warm nose? Why does that matter? So first of all, the two easiest ones are rain, where it's going to be above freezing from a certain level all the way to the ground. You're going to have freezing rain, which is snow falling into a kind of a deep, warm layer and then freezing on contact with the surface. And that's the icing that we're worried about. And then you have sleet, where you have where that warm nose is going to be a little bit shallower. That warm layer of air is going to be a little bit shallower. It will melt and then refreeze into ice pellets. If you're going to have a warm nose, you want it to be sleet. I can't, it's not snow, but you don't want freezing rain. And then if the whole column is under freezing, then you're going to get snow. So generally speaking, so that's a little bit there of just, the kind of the mechanics of this. And again, this is a simplified model. Sometimes you get rain and snow mixing in depending on other factors, but this generally shows what's what. So, but yeah, let's dig back into some questions. We got some additional questions that have come in, and I think we'll get moving here.
I had some questions from Net.
Yeah.
People watching on our Carolina Weather Net, our nonstop feed available on YouTube. No subscription required. You can watch it any place you watch YouTube. Hope to see you there at 6 a.m. when we begin our live coverage. But let me switch over to that. We had somebody asking about Silva, North Carolina, and I believe this is just to the west of Asheville, if I'm not mistaken. So depending on exactly where your elevation is, you have a much better chance in some of these other places we've been talking about as of late to still see some snow. 5 inches in Asheville, metropolitan area, kind of in that valley, higher amounts. So Silva looks to be right along Smoky Mountain, 74, near Dillsboro, right? So, yeah, I would say if your elevation is up there, I think you're going to see closer to that 5 to 8 inch amount. And let's just check the ice again real fast. Again, to oversimplify it, the more snow you get, the less ice you're going to see. You can see there for Asheville less than 1/10 of an inch. Yeah. So it's kind of that balance. It's like you're either going to get snow, you're going to get ice, or you're going to get rain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was looking at I'm looking at the 0Z high res and again looking at the snow depth product. And again, this could be calculations. Calculations being what they are, we could see maybe 2 to 3 inches of snow of snow depth there at any given time.
Are you using the 10-to-1? Which one would you like me to show?
Well, I am using however GR Earth is doing it, so it's probably 10-to-1. But let's and again, I think that the other part of this too is that the snow maps that you see in the models. I think this is a really great point. The snow maps that you see in the models assume a 10-to-1 liquid ratio. So for every 1 inch of liquid, you would get 10 inches of snow.
Doesn't always work out that way.
But it doesn't work out that it often does not work out that way. Climatologically here in Charleston, it's usually 7-to-1. So we'll need to see how that goes.
Here's the freezing rain.
Yeah, is this the FRAM? Or is this QPF? Looks like FRAM.
You just went to a whole other nerd level that went right over my head. So if anyone at home is feeling that, I'm with you.
Sorry, yeah, it's.
I think FRAM is only on Pivotal though, right?
Oh, maybe
this is
the flux capacitor feed.
Well, I will say that FRAM, which is a model that more accurately that is probably the most accurate way we have right now of measuring potential ice accretion. But this is pretty close. I mean, this is pretty close to what
if FRAM is a model, then no, this is the HER.
Well, Fram is a technique. Anyway, it's
Will there
fun.
be a test at the end of this?
No.
Okay, good.
I've been doing this 4 nights in a row. There's no test. Nobody got time for that. But anyway, all that to say is that, again, we're going to be watching this the ice situation very closely here, for people like Tammy who are down in Columbia ice. Yeah, probably maybe a tenth of an inch or more, depending on how far inland the warm front gets, though. It could change to rain and help melt that off sooner rather than later. So we cross our fingers for that.
Columbia could be saved by the thing that's making me nervous in Charlotte, is that the change between, what's today, Saturday? The change between Friday and Saturday is that ice shifted a little bit further north up 77 towards Charlotte and away from Columbia. So I'm not saying Columbia is out of it, but my opinion on the severity of the ice in Columbia has changed over the past 24 hours.
Yeah, and again, you're under winter weather advisory in Columbia. So again, that is an indication that winter weather is expected there. Maybe not to the degree of a severe ice storm, but winter weather is expected there, including some ice accretion.
Quick blurt, if you guys haven't already said this, an advisory is a higher, more severe bulletin from the National Weather Service than a watch. So a watch is winter weather might happen. An advisory is a small amount of winter weather is happening. A warning is a larger amount of winter weather is happening. So if you see a winter weather watch become an advisory, that's an upgrade.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, we showed the map at the outset, and again, we have the advisories, and then the ice storm warning in the northern Midlands into the upstate, certainly, and then a winter storm warning for much of the western North Carolina into the Charlotte area. So,
speaking of Charlotte, I just came back from the grocery store. That's why I was late, and I think your experience will vary by store. But I gave the store manager kudos. They still had bread. They still had milk. They had water, eggs. I was like, good job, Harris Teeter. All right.
So either people are keeping it in the proper perspective, they're buying the right things, or people are not taking it seriously.
Hey, I got a shout out from my grocery store today, Ingles. They actually sub-quoted a couple of my tweets with my experience in the grocery store today. So,
all right, Ingles.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Nobody's paying us for any of this. Sorry, Jared.
Yeah, no, all good. All good. All right. Let's talk Forest City, North Carolina, guys. That's going to be a little bit, that's going to be right on the edge there between that snow zone and maybe a little bit more ice.
Yeah, I can take that one, Jared. That's just south of me in Rutherford County. I think we start off with snow. Let's see, probably 4 or 5 hours from now, around 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and we'll see snow through a good portion of the morning, and then around that late morning, 10, 11 up to noontime, that's when we start to see things potentially switch over to sleet and some freezing rain. And as this storm departs, there could be a little back edge of a little bit of light snow towards 5-6 o'clock in the afternoon. So you start off with snow in Forest City, you change over to an icy mix, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, you can get a little bit of snow on the tail end.
Cool. We had a question, the chances of power outages in Fort Mill, South Carolina, Charlotte. Yeah, I would prepare for that. I would expect, scattered to potentially even widespread power outages in anywhere in the Charlotte metro area, Fort Mill, Rock Hill, Charlotte proper. I would be ready for that possibility.
The number that Duke Energy quoted for their entire system earlier this morning was they were anticipating 750,000 customers without power during the duration of this ice storm. We are forecasting for Fort Mill and those surrounding Charlotte metropolitan areas between 1/4 and 1/2 inch of ice. And that's the threshold for starting to bring down branches and wires. It's after 1/10 of inch, it's like, okay, this isn't great. Let's get off the roads, obviously. 1/4 of inch is where we start to go, okay, we got to start thinking about power outages and prolonged power outages, because then we have to wait for conditions to be safe enough for those crews to get out there. Those crews hunkered down tonight, by the way, at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yeah, I saw some of those last night. Jared and I was talking convoy coming through Interstate 40 heading into
Yep.
to the area.
They're staging up and down the East Coast, so that's where we're at. Will there be snow in Carthage and Moore County?
That's going to be tough, because I think you may get initial burst of snow at the very start, but it's going to quickly change over to freezing rain and then potentially just rain there in East Central North Carolina. So you may get a little bit of snow, but don't bet the house on seeing a big accumulating snow for a long time, because I think it quickly changes over to ice and then maybe even over to rain as we go throughout the day.
Yeah, absolutely. With Scotty, when we were talking about the model a few minutes ago, possibly Boone blowing rockets away from the sleet.
It's a great question. I am so interested to figure what happens here, because I think someone has the potential to stay strictly snow. And if it is, it would be the Blowing Rock area, because Blowing Rock is tailed right up against the escarpment of the Blue Ridge. The CAD loves to hang on there longer than anywhere else. It's a little bit cooler. I think if you live in Blowing Rock, Jonas Ridge, northern McDowell County into Avery County, you might luck out and get all snow. And if you do, you could see some big numbers up there.
I mean, it's worth noting that that's where the Weather Service seems to have the highest probabilities of really a good snowfall. If there's going to be anywhere that's going to boom, it's going to be there, it looks like.
Yep.
So
I think you might be in a good spot there, Lee.
Yeah. Yeah. And before we go, we'll put the maps back through one more time just to give everybody a rundown as to, just one last kind of closeout there. So we'll get back to those maps in a few minutes. Scotty, Catawba County.
Yeah, Catawba County, we're going to see snow throughout, starting around 3-4 o'clock in the morning. That snow will stick around through at least late morning and then transition to some sleet, maybe even some freezing rain. I'll give you a total, but I don't want you to focus on the total. I want you to focus on the impacts. We could see anywhere 2, 3, 4 inches of snow in the Catawba County area. Some of that will be compact once the sleet starts. So you may start off with like a fluffy 3 or 4 inches. And then when the sleet starts, you start to see that snow shrink a little bit. But the main thing is going to be issues on the roadways and the trees. Temperature is going to be in the 20s tomorrow. So whatever falls is going to stick. And it's going to make for a messy, just a messy day and a dangerous day if you're out on the roadway. So we were asking you not to, just wherever you need to be there tonight and just be ready to ride it out tomorrow. So yeah, I think you'll get some snow, but there's going to be a mixed bag of precipitation. A couple inches of snow, 2, 3, maybe 4 if you get lucky. And then it all turns to sleet in the afternoon.
So, Jessica Wade asked, Lenore.
Same.
Yeah. Kind of the same deal. Yeah. It certainly seems that way.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We have questions about Fayetteville, the risk for power outages in Fayetteville. And I will say that that's probably less from ice, but you're going to have wind issues too. And you're going to be kind of close to where that severe weather risk is going to be. So you could see power outages, but maybe from a thunderstorm or strong downpours there. And similarly, we got a question on the Carolina Weather Net about Lillington between Fayetteville and Raleigh. And again, when we look at anywhere in the I-95 corridor, again, it looks like that you start. Yeah, you're going to get the whole smash. You might see some flakes early in the morning, followed by sleet and freezing rain, and then that quickly turns to rain by midday. So that's going to be, so again, I don't think that you're going to have a big ice issue. I mean, it may be hairy in the morning, but as the afternoon goes on, we're going to be wanting to watch to see what happens with the thunderstorm threat. As it comes through there, which is just crazy to think about, but that is absolutely a thing that is going to happen. So we'll need to watch that.
Shameless plug again for a Carolina Weather Net, because that's a place you could park yourself throughout the day tomorrow, watching on any device that gets YouTube, whether it's a smartphone or a smart TV. And we're going to start at 6 a.m. talking about snow, sleet, and ice. And I think by the time we get to the evening hours, we're going to be talking about thunderstorms in some places. So that's the place for Carolina weather fans to hang out tomorrow.
Absolutely. And we have questions around northern Iredell County.
Iredell.
Yeah, sorry. I'm from South Carolina.
Okay. I mispronounce your Charleston stuff all the time. So.
Yeah, I'm from the wrong. I'm from the wrong Carolina. So
yeah, which portion of Iredell was it? North or south?
Northern. So
that's obviously going to be more snow, some
Yeah.
ice.
Yeah.
Mecklenburg and Iredale are so tall.
Yeah. Counties don't make sense down here, just in general.
Which you want? Do you want squares? We can go
I
west
mean,
for
that's what
that.
that's what they do. That's what they do in the Midwest. Works out pretty well for
Yeah.
the chasers there. What time will it start in High Point? I mean, it looks like I look at the model here, and it's probably quite possibly as early as goodness. I mean, let's see, 4 5 a.m.
Yeah, I think 5 a.m. is a good lean-in point there.
Yep.
For the triad.
Yep.
Well, good. Our coverage starts at 6.
Yep. How's Cumberland County looking, guys?
Cumberland County, that is Fort Bragg, if I'm not mistaken, right? That's
Yep.
kind of like the Fayetteville area. I think you could see some
Yes.
ice, but eventually it changes back to rain. So you could get a glaze of ice, maybe up to a 10th, but it does look like the warm nose gets in there and it turns over to rain. So
Yeah.
maybe a slick morning outing if you need to be out, but I think by afternoon you should be back to rain.
Yeah. And that looks like another place where we could see some thunderstorms. So we want to welcome in Evan Fisher from Asheville. He's joining us probably for the next 15 minutes, and we're going to try and get out of here by 10.
I'm going to tag him in, and I'm going to actually go finish my ice preps.
Yeah.
All right, get out of here, James. Thanks for holding down the fort for so long. Fellas, it's good to see you. Yes, you will. Good to see you guys, and good to see everyone in the audience, even though I can't actually see. I appreciate you being here. Wow.
Yeah.
What a night. It has been so hectic. I'm sure you all have felt the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going down the list of questions right now. We're getting a lot of good questions in here. We had a question around Greensboro and sleet and ice amounts there. Again, I think that's going to be the smorgasbord right up there. You're going to see a little bit of everything.
I think that area, Greensboro especially, Winston-Salem to a point, but Winston-Salem, you're a little bit more north. You're a little bit in a cooler environment, but Greensboro, you're gonna have to watch out for some ice there. I'm afraid that the ice threat could be a real concern tomorrow.
Yeah. Driving on I-95 from New York City to Florida on Monday. I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, because Virginia,
Virginia's
going to be hit pretty hard with snow.
Yeah, we know what happened in Virginia about a week ago on I-95, where everyone, including Senator Tim Kaine, got stuck for overnight. So if you have any driving that you want to do down I-95, delay that a day at least. We don't want you getting stuck out there. That's just no fun at all. So we've also gotten a couple of questions around next weekend, and I want to caution everybody that is very far out there. We have seen, as we've seen with this storm, we've seen a lot of changes over the last 5 days as far as who would get impacts. I mean, I bet that this time last week when we were initially kind of looking at the models around this, it was like, that looks interesting. I mean, it was looking like it was going to snow where I was. That has obviously changed. So, we got eyes on it. We're keeping an eye on it, but we're also right now going to really focus on one storm at a time. And this is certainly the biggest one. This is certainly the issue at hand here, but we're going to be taking a look at that. Don't misunderstand. We're going to be looking at that.
I'll tease some people. If you like winter weather, I think the rest of this month's your jam. I think you'll be happy.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that is. I would certainly think that is going to be very interesting. So, we have another question around the local news. A quarter plus in ice accumulations for Winston-Salem. I think that seems certainly reasonable.
If not, maybe a little bit more. But yeah, a quarter inch for sure.
Yeah, exactly. A good meteorology question here. How efficient, from Catawba County News and Weather, how efficient is the dendritic growth zone in this storm? That is SAT words of the day. What is the dendritic growth zone? I think is a good place to start, and that's an area upper in the atmosphere. About is it like it's like 10 to 30, right? I always get the hail growth and the dendritic growth mixed up. I'm usually doing more hail, but there's a layer of air in which that snow production is very. You can infer a lot about the character of snow there. So let's
minus 12 to minus 18 C.
Evan Fisher's our
I do hail. I do hail. Okay.
Yeah, you're a warm sector guy. I'm a cold sector guy.
I'm Mr. Warm Sector.
Exactly. Dendritic growth zone. We're typically seeing that's where we have snowflakes growing in the atmosphere, in a layer that has temperatures between -12 and -18 degrees Celsius. So with this storm, especially in the first 2/3 of it, we're going to see our man, it's really hard to explain without being super techy. We're going to see the atmosphere fully saturated all the way up through that dendritic growth zone. Then for DGZ, I know there's a couple other words for it as well, but we'll just call it the DGZ. So that's going to be a very efficient process. When you have saturation in the DGZ, you have your most efficient snow growth and your heaviest snowfall rates. So we're going to see that for the first 2/3 of the storm. I think as we get into the last third, we're going to have some issues with moisture not reaching quite as high, but then we'll also have temperature profiles cooling. So it's going to be a chase there. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to turn out. I'm not totally sold on the back end thump of this storm, but we will see.
Yeah. That sinking air off of the mountains 9 times out of 10 doesn't really play out, but we'll see. Yeah. I mean, the models have been really consistent on that, so
we'll just see if the models are consistently wrong. I think that's the concern that people have had today is that there has been from this morning to today has been a general cooling trend, and we're just now starting to get the evening suite of models in, and so it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves and what that does to the kind of the last call forecast tonight. So we want to have Gilbert, South Carolina. It looks like nothing but cold rain. I would tend to agree. Let me make sure.
I'm looking at my map up here. I can't find Gilbert.
Gilbert is in Lexington County, and I would say that. So yeah, I've been through there. Duh. I would say that you do have a chance of some freezing rain in the morning. Again, you're under a winter weather advisory for the potential for a little bit of freezing rain, maybe about 1/10 of an inch, a glaze that could cause some slick roads in the morning. After that, when we get in the afternoon, though, it's very possible that we could see that change over to rain, and that will take care of the situation there. So, question about Florence, our call in Florence, and our call in Florence is very similar to what we're calling for the coast. You are also under a winter weather advisory from the Weather Service in Wilmington for the potential for a little bit of ice in the morning that will transition to all rain, and you could see some thunderstorms in the afternoon. You certainly cannot rule it out. Near the Florence area. Depends on the track of this. Ridgeville, rain and wind. Anywhere in the Charleston metro, anywhere south of really south of I-20 for the most part, going down 26, you're going to be in the rain. There is still a tiny chance if it gets a little colder than expected that we could see a slight glaze of ice on the very farther northwest tier of the Tri-County, north of the Santee Cooper Lakes along I-95, but I would not bet the bank on that. Snow versus ice in Lake Wylie. Ice, baby. Think, like that is absolutely that's the zone. That is the danger zone for ice. In anywhere in that Charlotte metro, Lake Wylie, Rock Hill, Fort Mill, those areas. That is where you're going to run into trouble. Call on wind around King Street, and this is where and again, this is something that we're going to need to watch closely. When the cold front gets through and that low pressure passes by, we could see winds gust 30 to 40 miles an hour. We'll need to see, we'll need to watch that very closely as this the low pressure, probably depending on some of the modeling I've seen, low pressure could be forming very near there. So we're certainly going to want to watch that very closely. I believe Williamsburg is under a winter weather advisory, but I think that's going to be more for the western side of the county, if I had to guess. So yeah, it's going to be. Yeah, we got a day coming up tomorrow, guys. It is we certainly do. So let's
I got a few over here, Jared. I can.
Yeah.
I got. We cross post these on several of our pages, so I'll mention a few names. Paula's watching, and Heather, Patty, Jason, Maggie, Darlene, Missy, Joey. They're all wanting to know they're following my page. So they're all centered here in the foothills. So I'll give you another breakdown of what I expect. And I'll let Evan kind of talk about what he's expecting up there in the mountains as well. But here in the foothills, the snow really starts after midnight. There was a few areas earlier today. It saw a few snow flurries and things like that. But really the main part of the storm starts tonight around 2, 3, 4 a.m., kind of in that time frame. And it's going to start off with snow. And some of that snow could be heavy, definitely during the early morning hours. And as we get through the mid morning to the late morning around 10, 11, 12 o'clock, that's when models are kind of showing the things starting to transition into more of a wintry mix of snow, sleet, maybe even some freezing rain in the foothills. And that happens for a good part of the afternoon. We could go back from freezing rain at a point to sleet, may change to snow, as we are showing you guys earlier with the 850 temperature. That line kind of just wiggles back and forth. So there's a possibility you could see snow, and you look out the next time, it could be sleet, and you look out and it'd be freezing rain, and then you look back again and it's snowing. So that's kind of the dividing line here in the foothills, I-77 area, to kind of talk about, see what's going on. So accumulation wise, that initial burst of snow through the morning time hours, we could pick up 3, 4, maybe even 5 inches of snow. But once that sleet and that freezing rain starts, the snow really starts to compact. So you may measure 5 inches at, let's say, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. And you're like, oh, I want to go back out there at lunchtime, 1 o'clock. And you measure, and it may be like 4 or 3 inches. That sleet really compacts that snow. And then if you get any freezing rain on top of that, it kind of gets that crusty layer of ice on top of the snow. So no matter what the accumulation is, the impacts are going to be the same. The roads are going to be very icy. If we get freezing rain in the trees and the wind starts to gust tomorrow afternoon, like everything, all the models are showing us that we could see some pretty substantial wind gusts from time to time. So that could also bring down some trees and power lines. So it's going to be just a nasty day to be outside and on the road. So we encourage you to stay home, be where you need to be tonight, just hunker down throughout tomorrow. Hopefully, fingers crossed, you won't lose your power and you can just enjoy a good day inside, watching Netflix or reading a book, or just sitting by the fire and just relaxing and watching it snow or sleet or whatever you like to do. But the impacts are going to be the same. The roads are going to be in bad shape. There's going to be possibility of power outages. And if you really want the snow, be sure you wake up early tomorrow morning and get out and enjoy it before it kind of changes over to a mix. So that's what's going on in the foothills, Evan. I'll let you kind of talk about what's going on up in the mountains.
Yeah, thanks, Scotty. So we've had snow showers on and off for the last couple of hours. I have heard of some light accumulations in the higher elevations. So folks above 3,500 feet might already have a coating on the roads, but at this point, it's nothing heavy. I agree with you, Scotty. I think around midnight, maybe even just after, we'll start to see those heavier rates move in. Everyone's below freezing at this point. It's 34 out right now at the lowest elevations of Asheville. But once we get some evaporative cooling, we'll quickly drop down to our wet bulb, and we will be below freezing. So I have no worries about mixing overnight. I think as we get into the early morning or after sunrise, so 7 to 10 a.m., we're going to start to see some sleet pushing up from the southeast into the French Broad Valley, into areas around Asheville, and particularly just to the southeast of Asheville. I'm really worried about downsloping going into Asheville for total overall precipitation totals. I think that areas just to the north of town are going to see a lot less snow than they think. We've had some big forecasts out there roaming around social media of 12 to 18 inches. I wouldn't be shocked if someone verifies just north of Asheville with 2 to 6, maybe. So there's going to be some very variable snowfall totals around the area. Going into the afternoon tomorrow, I think by 3 to 5 p.m., we'll start to see it switch back over from sleet back over to snow as the tail end of the storm wraps through and our temperatures cool off around 850 millibars. That'll be when we have our chance at a back end thump, but those are never certain. We'll see about that. They happen 1 in 10 times. In this instance, I'm not too confident in it. So I think overall, if you're in Hendersonville or Transylvania County, Henderson County, Transylvania County, or the higher elevations of Polk and Rutherford, you stand a pretty good chance at 6 to 10 inches. If you're more towards Asheville and in the northern end of the French Broad Valley, you may be looking at more like 4 to 8 inches. If you happen to be one of the 5 people who lives above 5,000 feet, congratulations, you're getting 2 feet of snow. But if you are that person, by the way, send me a message. I'd love to come hang out sometime. That's kind of what we're looking at. And gusty winds, Scotty mentioned that all through the day, gusty winds. No set timing, just windy. Could see some power outages.
Yep. Well, we're coming up on 10 o'clock. I wanted to get to a couple more questions real quick, just really quickly here. Steve Green on Facebook wants to know about Snow Camp, North Carolina. He wants to know if it's going to be all ice. Just rename it. Just rename the town. It's going to be Ice Camp. You may see a little bit of snow in the morning, but it looks very much like in that. Again, you're going to be kind of on that edge there where you could see primarily freezing rain, eventually maybe changing over to rain later in the day. So, yeah, it does not sound very snowy in that neck of the woods. An interesting question about impacts of snow on the trees in a forested area. Do we think that this is going to be, do we think that this is going to be the kind of thing where the weight of snow could cause problems with down trees?
It's funny this question was asked because Dylan Hudler, panelist with Carolina Weather Group, and Christian Morgan and I, we have a group text, and I proposed a question to them. I was like, this drought that we've been in, has that weakened the trees any, where we could see more trees come down from the snow and ice than what we normally would? So we couldn't really put our heads together on a correct answer, but I'll be interested to see how that happens. I think this drought has definitely weakened some of the tree structures, especially those ones that were vulnerable already. So it's possible that we could see more trees come down from this.
Yeah. These flash droughts definitely put especially the oaks at risk. They have a shallower root system, and they can be a whole lot easier to topple over, even with just some light winds. I think if you're along the Blue Ridge Escarpment, if you don't know where that is, don't worry about it. You're probably not on it. But if you're along the Blue Ridge Escarpment in the mountains, that's where you stand the best chance of having some legitimate tree damage. If you're seeing a foot of heavy, wet snow, it's going to be pretty easy to take down an oak with shallow roots.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're about to close this thing out. I want to take a couple minutes real quick to just go back over kind of what we're looking at over the next couple days and some of the things that you can expect. So let's take we're going to take another look here at the winter weather alerts, the watches and warnings that are out. And so no more watches to be said. We have winter weather advisories for the eastern North Carolina, just inland of the coastal plain there. They stretch into the Midlands of South Carolina and into the central Savannah River region. We have an ice storm warning out for kind of the between the Midlands and the upstate here, including parts of the Charlotte metro area, for the potential for up to a quarter inch or more of ice accretion in places like Fort Mill and places like Lawrence and near Greenwood, and then winter storm warning for really a whole mix of ice, sleet, snow for a good bit of the mountains. Your best chance of snow is going to be in the mountains. As we mentioned, and we'll show you the National Weather Service forecast here in just a second, with the risk for snow decreasing as you go east and the risk for ice increasing as you go east. So that's certainly going to be something that we're going to want to watch. Again, the Winter Storm Severity Index is showing major impacts possible in the Charlotte metro area, as well as parts of the mountains and into the upstate around Greenville, Spartanburg area. So again, that's going to be something that, tomorrow we're going to want folks to kind of stay where they are, just kind of hang out. It's not going to be a great day to travel over much of the Carolinas north of I-20, especially if the freezing rain develops and overperforms. So that's certainly something that we're going to want to watch. North Carolina snowfall forecast. We've had a couple other questions come in around this. And again, you're seeing the snow totals here. Again, your jackpot is very likely to be, if anyone is going to boom, it's going to be in the Boone, Blowing Rock area, as we mentioned earlier, with accumulations possible 8 to 12 inches in spots up there. Now 46 inches around Cherokee, and then you can kind of see where the Weather Service might be trying to account for some of the downsloping there too. So, and some of the valleys there as well. So, when you get further east, you get into the Weather Service is not expecting much in the way of snow around Charlotte, Raleigh, Rocky Mount, less than an inch, maybe an inch or two around Greensboro. That's where your main ice threat is going to exist. And then when you get into places like Rocky Mount, Roanoke Rapids, you're going to change to rain very early in the day. By midday, you'll be changing to rain. So not expecting much in the way of winter weather there. Here is the ice accumulation. And again, we have, from a light glaze, kind of east of I-95, turning much more substantial as you get into the I-77 corridor, Charlotte, Greensboro, Lake Norman, those areas there. 3/10 of an inch of ice is no joke, and if you mix in winds with that, that's a ripe example for numerous power outages. So we're going to watch that closely in that I-77 corridor tomorrow. South Carolina, snow is not going to be a big story for you. You may see an inch or two up in Greenville and Spartanburg, and we'll have to see. Maybe you might get a little something on the back end of the storm. Again, as Evan noted, that's not typical. That's not something that you can bank on. It'll start the snow will start the day, and then as the warmness penetrates north, and the low penetrates north, you're going to start getting in a little bit more of that freezing rain, which we are certainly concerned about with ice accretions possible. 3/10 of an inch possible around Rock Hill and Charlotte, and over towards Spartanburg, a 1/4 inch of ice accretion certainly possible. Very close to that in Greenville, heading down into Greenwood and near Anderson. So Columbia Metro, you could see a little bit of a glazing in the morning that could cause travel disruptions. That should hopefully change to rain by midday or so, and kind of whittle that threat away. But as you can see, also as you get further south, you get around the Santee Cooper Lakes, Marion, and Moultrie, that ice threat really backs off, and it is expected to stay rain throughout the event. And finally, there is a severe weather risk tomorrow. Wilmington, Morehead City, Cape Lookout, Cape Hatteras, Kitty Hawk, just a few locations here along the east coast, the far east coast of North Carolina, where an isolated, strong, damaging wind gust or even a tornado could be possible as a squall line develops and moves through later in the afternoon. So that is another wrinkle that we're going to be watching through all of this. So certainly tomorrow, fellas, we're going to have a very busy weather day. And so let's talk about how you can keep up with us. And we got a few ways that we can do that. We'll be starting our coverage at 6 a.m. James, who was on here earlier, is gonna kick us off from Charlotte, and hopefully he keeps power. and then we'll be along throughout the day to update as conditions warrant. We'll have call-ins at times, and hopefully we can get some good ground truth from y'all as well. So keep it here. The Carolina Weather Net, as some of you are watching us on the Carolina Weather Net tonight, thank you. Keep that rolling all day. We'll be breaking in there as needed. And thank you to everybody, especially on YouTube. 3,000 subscribers today. It's a really cool milestone for us, and we thank you all again for being there with us. So before we close out here, Scotty, Evan, final thoughts.
Well, I just saw on Twitter where there's a coating of snow already in Little Switzerland. That's in northern McDowell County. So
there you go.
Yeah, it's sweet. Just came out from that area. So just a little bit of a coating, a little dusting up there. So
that is the Blue Ridge Escarpment.
That is the escarpment. That's right.
Yep.
So that's where you're going to see it first. For me, it's impacts. It's all about impacts. Somebody's going to see some big snow, but a lot of us are going to see a little snow and more ice. So, if you're a snow lover, I'm telling you, the next couple of weeks are still prime for us to get another event to happen. So if you don't get your snow this time, don't get your hopes down, because we've got more opportunities to come. But just be mindful. It's going to be a pretty high impact event just with the cold temperatures and the ice. So stick around the house tomorrow, stay off the roads, make sure you're prepared for power outages, keep everything up and charged, and just stick with us. I'm sure we'll be tweeting out and doing videos and all that good stuff over the next 24 to 48 hours. And just appreciate you watching, and good luck. If you want snow, I hope you get what you want.
Yep. Evan, final thoughts.
Yeah, no, Scotty, you pretty much nailed it there. Impacts, totally covered that. I would just say stick with us. We're going to have a lot of really interesting content coming out. We're here to answer your questions. If you have concerns, just let us know. We are easy to reach on Twitter at Carolina WX Group, Facebook, Carolina Weather Group, YouTube. You may already be here on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, whatever that may be. So just let us know if you have a question. We're people, not just people behind a screen, but we actually have voices, and we would be happy to share with you and educate you if you'd like to learn something.
Absolutely. So I'd love to see your tweets. That's the best way to get it to us. We'd love to see your tweets, videos, pictures.
Tweets, and don't forget the MPing app in the app stores. That is such a useful tool for getting direct ground truth about what you're seeing on the ground, not only to people like us, but also into the National Weather Service. They have that up on their displays. they can see that and match that with what they're seeing on the radar and help calibrate their operations. So you have an opportunity to do some science tomorrow, and hope you certainly take advantage. We are definitely looking forward to see it. So anyway, so all that to say, I think we're going to go ahead and close it out here for the evening. Again, tomorrow we're going to start a coverage at 6 a.m. on the Carolina Weather Net and on the Carolina Weather Group. So be sure to join us there, and we'll be on and off throughout the day with continuing coverage. So for Scotty in Morganton and for Evan in Asheville, I'm Jared Smith in Charleston. Thank you all very much for watching. Thank you for your trust and for trusting us through these weather events. Hang in there, and before you know it, it'll be Monday and the sun will be back out. So just we'll get through tomorrow, and it's going to be just fine. So everybody take care, be safe, and we'll talk to you real soon.